Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain You, I Love. This movie tells the story of two high school teenagers who have been friends since childhood. As they grow up, they secretly start to have feelings for each other, but they still don't dare to express their feelings. Will the two end up having a serious relationship? Let's find out in You, I Love.
We love
You, I Love begins by showing four high school teenagers who have been friends since they were children named Rin, Yuu, Koyomi and Keita. Their friendship is almost inseparable because they go to the same high school and live in the same apartment complex. Rin is an indifferent high school boy and is quite popular in his school because of his handsome face. Many female students at his school idolize and like him. Meanwhile, Yuu is a female high school student who has a timid and shy character. She always faithfully follows Rin everywhere, even though Rin is often rude to her. Actually, Rin and Yuu secretly have feelings for each other, but they still don't dare to show their feelings. Koyomi and Keita, who already knew Rin and Yuu very well, seemed surprised to know about their condition and hid their feelings even though their movements clearly showed that they liked each other. But in the end, Keita and Koyomi always support their two best friends and try to help Rin and Yuu get closer again. One day, Rin and his friends held a scientific exhibition about chemical experiments that required each student to pair up in a group. Yuu is actually a pretty girl and many boys at her school like her. But because she lacks confidence, Yuu often refuses their invitations. That day, two male students invited Yuu to join their chemical experiment group, but Yuu refused the invitation because she wanted to join a group with Rin. During school break, Yuu approached Rin and asked him to join a chemistry experiment group with her. Hearing this, Rin agreed without hesitation and said that Yuu wouldn't have been able to complete this task without him. In fact, Rin really wanted to be in a group with Yuu. Sometime later, the day of the scientific exhibition of chemical experiments finally arrived. That day, Rin suddenly got sick and wasn't feeling well. But Rin still insisted on participating in the scientific exhibition, even though Keita had asked him to go home and rest. Rin didn't want to leave the scientific exhibition because Yuu had been waiting for this for a long time, and he didn't want to leave Yuu alone. When Rin entered the laboratory in a lab coat, many female students looked amazed at him. In contrast, Yuu looked very nervous because she would undergo this chemical experiment together with Rin. Yuu accidentally makes a mistake in a chemical experiment, causing Rin's right hand to burn. Seeing Rin's poor condition, Yuu looked very worried and felt guilty towards him. At night, Yuu came to Rin's apartment room to visit and take care of Rin. However, Rin, who doesn't want to be pitied, asks Yuu to return to her apartment. Even so, Rin still hoped that Yuu would stay by his side and accompany him that night. Rin didn't see Yuu in his room anymore when he turned around and started looking for Yuu under his bed. It turned out that Yuu only went out for a while to replace Ren's head compress with a new one. As a result, Rin felt embarrassed in front of Yuu. From this point on, Rin seemed to realize that he really liked Yuu. A few weeks later, Yuu moved from her apartment to a house with her family in a housing complex. Yuu meets a very sweet, handsome young man named Kazuma in the residential area. Kazuma saw that Yuu and her family were busy moving, decided to help her move things into her new house. As it turns out, Kazuma will become Yuu's new neighbor, and his house is right next to Yuu's. Elsewhere, Rin looks very sad and upset that Yuu moved to another place. It seems Rin is not ready to part with her, even though he always treats Yuu as he likes. Seeing Rin, who was frantic, Koyomi suggested that Rin come to Yuu's new residence and approach her. Hearing support from Koyomi and Keita, Rin felt sure to come to see Yuu at her new house. When Rin arrived at Yuu's house, Rin saw the interaction between Kazuma and Yuu, which looked close, so he felt very jealous. Then Rin immediately took the box that was brought by Kazuma and asked him to leave. However, Kazuma didn't like Ren's childish attitude and didn't want to let go of the box. Yuu, who saw the fight, became confused and didn't know what to do. Rin becomes annoyed and prefers to leave Yuu. The next morning, Yuu came to Rin and apologized to him for yesterday's incident. But Rin still feels angry with Yuu and says that she is a flirty girl. Keita and Koyomi, who saw the fight between Yuu and Rin, were confused because they didn't know anything about yesterday's incident. In the evening, Rin, who looks restless thinking about Yuu, decides to call her. However, Rin pretended that he had called the wrong person when the call was connected and immediately hung up the call. Yuu became confused by Ren's attitude, which recently seemed wishy-washy. At the same time, Yuu's mother comes to her room and introduces Kazuma as the person who will be her study tutor. It turns out that Kazuma is one of the smartest students in his school, so Yuu's mother wants Kazuma to help Yuu in her learning activities. Hearing her mother's sudden decision, Yuu looked surprised and felt very nervous while studying with Kazuma. At school, Rin has always been indifferent and avoids Yuu. Seeing this, Keita and Koyomi tried to calm Yuu down and comfort her. When he came home from school, Rin saw Kazuma, who came to Yuu's school and waited for Yuu to go home with her. Ren then warns Kazuma to stay away from Yuu because Yuu is his. Hearing that, Kazuma didn't back down and said that he would make Yuu fall in love with him. He would even treat Yuu better than Ren treated her. At night, Koyomi and Keita come to Ren's apartment and say that Yuu is currently taking private lessons with Kazuma at Kazuma's house. Koyomi then encourages Ren to fight for Yuu's love and not let her go to Kazuma. That night, Ren and Kazuma compete to teach Yuu and help with her assignments. Not long after that, Kazuma's younger sister named Mika came to Kazuma's room to return Kazuma's cell phone. Mika, who saw Ren for the first time, was immediately fascinated and fell in love with him. After Mika left Kazuma's room, the atmosphere became tense again between Ren and Kazuma. When teaching Yuu, Ren is always nagging and teasing Yuu. Seeing this, Kazuma tried to stop Ren and asked him to stop being rude to Yuu. Kazuma thinks that Ren's attitude has made Yuu a less confident and timid girl. Ren was annoyed again and chose to leave Kazuma's house. Seeing the flustered Yuu, Koyomi tried to calm Yuu down. After that, Koyomi asked Kazuma to come out and talk to each other. Koyomi explained to Kazuma not to interrupt Ren and Yuu's relationship. Strangely, Kazuma thought that Koyomi was just being silly while praising her beauty. The following day, Ren was approached by a female student from another class who asked him to speak in private. Ren knew that the girl would confess her feelings to him, so he immediately agreed and asked the girl to meet him behind the school building. After that, Ren called Yuu to meet him at the same place. It turns out that Ren did that on purpose to get Yuu back. Shortly after, Yuu went behind the school building to meet Ren. When she saw Ren talking to another female student, Yuu immediately hid and quietly listened to their conversation. Ren's guess turned out to be true. The girl really liked him and wanted to confess her love to him. Unfortunately, Ren refuses her confession of love and says he is currently dating Yuu. Hearing this, Yuu was shocked and couldn't believe it. Ren then approached Yuu and said that he deliberately pretended to think of Yuu as his girlfriend so that other students would stop bothering him and chasing him. Ren then asked Yuu to pretend to be his girlfriend and be romantic in front of the other students for the next few weeks. Hearing this, Yuu innocently agreed to become Ren's fake girlfriend. The next day, Ren starts treating Yuu very romantically. He even deliberately took Yuu's hand while saying that he and Yuu were already dating in front of Kazuma. Since that day, Ren often invites Yuu out together and on dates. One day, Ren invites Yuu to sleep together, but Yuu looks sad and feels strange with Ren's attitude suddenly being nice to her. She thought that Ren just wanted to take advantage of her. Seeing Yuu's reaction, Ren became angry and annoyed with Yuu. That night, Kazuma invites Koyomi and Yuu to go on vacation to his grandfather's house during summer vacation. Hearing that, Koyomi agreed to Kazuma's invitation on the condition that Ren and Keita also had to come along. When summer vacation arrived, Kazuma and 5 others finally set off for his grandfather's place. Along the way, the atmosphere on the bus was strange because Ren and Yuu didn't talk to each other and avoided eye contact. When she arrived at the destination village, Yuu suddenly remembered her childhood with Ren in that place. Ren had buried valuable treasures in the forest in the village in the past. Yuu then decides to look for Ren's precious treasure so that he doesn't think of her as a bad girl anymore. While the others were busy eating together, Yuu immediately went into the forest and looked for Ren's precious treasure. Kazuma and the others became confused seeing Yuu, who suddenly went into the forest. When it gets dark, Yuu's friends start to feel worried because she still hasn't returned to the inn and is afraid that she will get hurt in the forest. Therefore, Koyomi immediately contacted Ren, who was going with Mika around the forest area, to help them find Yuu's whereabouts. However, Ren acted indifferently and didn't care about it and then returned to continue his journey with Mika. After a while, Ren couldn't stop thinking about Yuu and started to worry about her condition, but he still seemed annoyed with Yuu. Seeing Ren looking restless, Mika tried to cheer him up and started to seduce him. Ren then pushed Mika towards the tree trunk and brought his face closer to Mika's. When Ren and Mika were about to kiss, Ren was suddenly startled by a voice from another direction. It turned out that the voice came from Yuu, who fell limp because she felt sad about the closeness between Ren and Mika. Ren immediately ran to Yuu to help her when he realized that Yuu had seen him. However, Yuu, who was feeling jealous, looked annoyed at Ren while saying something about the heart-shaped stone. After that, she immediately left Ren and Mika. Shortly after that, Kazuma, Koyomi, and Keita followed into the forest to find Yuu. When they met with Ren, Ren said that the only person who could find Yuu right now was him because he was the only one who knew where she might be right now. It turned out that Ren had understood the meaning of Yuu's words about the heart-shaped stone. The heart-shaped stone is a clue to the precious treasure that Ren once buried in the forest. As the day turned to night, Yuu was still trying to find Ren's precious treasure. Shortly after that, Ren, who finally met Yuu, immediately invited her to go to a heart-shaped stone place. Ren then apologized to Yuu because he had previously forgotten his childhood with her. After that, Ren immediately looked for a small log and used it to dig the soil around the heart-shaped stone. But Ren still couldn't find his treasure, even though he had searched the ground around the rock. Seeing Ren looking troubled, Yuu intended to help him find the treasure. After digging for quite a while, Yuu finally managed to find the precious treasure that Ren buried. When the box was opened, they found a mini statue in the shape of a duck. Ren then explained that the duck was Yuu's favorite animal, and because he felt that Yuu was very precious to him. Ren deliberately kept the duck statue so that he could feel connected to Yuu. That means the thing that is considered valuable by Ren is Yuu. Ren then gave the duck statue to Yuu and said that he wanted Yuu to be his. Coincidentally, a meteor shower adorned the sky that night and made the atmosphere of that night even more beautiful. Ren began to imagine himself proposing to Yuu. On that beautiful night, Ren and Yuu finally kissed each other and showed their love for each other. Mika, who saw this, felt sad and asked Keita to hug him. Meanwhile, Kazuma and Koyomi began to show interest in each other. Now Ren and Yuu have become lovers, and maybe soon, Koyomi and Kazuma will also start their love story. This film teaches us a lot: to treat everyone better and appreciate each person's presence before that person leaves our side or gives upon us.